I've chosen a rather provocative title to really frame this discussion around the need for global collaboration and the fact that there is a very big global ag innovation market out there. More and more the problems we face are being solved at a global level. And really the other point is that our innovations and our ideas eventually have to compete with global ideas that are happening on the global stage. So within that context, first of all, I'd like to just throw a couple of slides up about Bayer. I think they're germane to the discussion because, of course, I think some of you may have heard about our recent dalliance or merger with Monsanto, and it reflects a broader sort of reorganisation of the ag innovation environment. So Bayer now really, the reason for the merger really is to bring together very strong platforms in biologics, in crop protection, around chemical or biological crop protection, leading seeds and traits, and then using digital technology to apply those technologies as accurately as possible. We really believe that this is a way to introduce true sustainability, because you're not relying on any one particular set of technologies. You're putting the right package of technologies together at any one time. And with the reorganisation that happened across the industry, you'll see that the other three majors more or less have a similar approach. They each have elements of each area, and although applying them in different ways. And behind that vision is a very, very large innovation environment. So Bayer will spend this year 2.4 billion euros across 35 R&D sites globally, 8,000 R&D employees and 175 breeding sites. So the other three majors will spend an additional 3.2 billion euros, so that makes a total of 5.6. And then if you throw in some Japanese R&D companies, convert it to dollars, and you won't get any change out of 10 billion Australian dollars, which is invested. So, the bottom line is that there's a huge activity in innovation going out there. The question for us is that a challenge to our innovation sector, or is it an opportunity to partner with that? So with that done, in preparation for this talk, I'm a bit of a history buff, so I went to the site of what I think is our greatest commercial innovation success in Australia, and found these two gates. Does anyone know what they are? Any guesses? Okay, well, fortunately there's a sign there, and it indicates that these are the Russell Street gates, which were the entry to the Sunshine Harvester Works, which were the largest factory in Australia around about 1922. So inventing, developing, manufacturing and exporting around the world, the H.M. Mackay-owned Sunshine Harvester Work employed over 3,000 people and changed global agriculture. By the 1920s, H.M. Mackay Company was running the largest implement factory in the Southern Hemisphere, covered 30.4 hectares, and was leading the international agricultural industry through the development of the world's first self-propelled harvester in 1924. And during the war, they exported 20,000 of these all around the world and were a true global leader. So, and unfortunately we have the gates all that remain. We have a particular skill in inventing harvesters, and it's stated, and I'm pretty sure Australia invented the sugarcane harvester. There's some argument as to which family did that. It's quite an interesting story. The CSIRO commandeered an American harvester and actually produced the first workable grape harvester. The first worldwide production of grape harvesters was in Mildura. And I'm told by Snow Barlow from Melbourne Uni that actually we also invented or created the coffee harvester. So, of course, the point here is that we dominate none of these markets now, and aside from some production, I think, of sugarcane harvesters, we don't actually dominate those markets. So one may argue, well, is this an issue? You know, we benefited from them. So certainly there was some exchange of funding, I imagine, and we, and we still benefit from those innovations today, along with the rest of the world. Well, some comments were made actually during the Evoke Ag conference by one participant, and that is that while we do benefit from them, what we lack is the true sort of commercial innovation ecosystem and skills base which surrounds these large, industrial companies. And that's a critical issue when we talk about conversion of our ideas into commercial outcomes. There's a very limited commercial R&D space in Australia. So that's the history. So one can wonder now, where are we now? And so I've done a bit of digging, and it must be related to that report that you had before, which is the OECD Science, Technology and Industry Scoreboard every 2 years, 2017. So there's some useful I'm sorry the writing there, but Australia is sort of towards the top there in terms of higher education expenditure. So it's quite good. We are definitely in the top 10. There's another graph which shows that our quality is very, very high. But when we come to business R&D within Australia, it's towards the bottom. And where we really stand out, and not in a very good way, is when it comes to collaboration businesses to universities. We are stone motherless last amongst the OECD. So, there really seems to be an issue around, and this is across the whole innovation space, not just agriculture, but I think it is something that relates as well. Our universities and our businesses collaborating together is pretty weak, and particularly coming from a German company. I've worked in Germany for a number of years. The tightness of the link between universities and industry is incredible, whereas it's very, very weak here. That's the industry-wide. So what about agriculture? So AFI did a report last year, and it showed, I think it's the dotted line, which shows that we, in terms of government investment in R&D, we're sort of a little bit middle of the pack or a bit above. There was also, was mentioned the report from the Sydney Studies Centre, University of Sydney, which was released last year, and it rates the investment in early stage investments, and it's very, very low in Australia. It's 12 cents per capita compared to Israel, which is $6.05, and America and Canada, which have very high rates as well. So Spencer Morn was the guy who presented or discussed at Evoke, and his words were pathetic. Yeah, so a little bit harsh, but anyway, I mean that's the way it is, and we've obviously got some work to do in terms of linking our R&D into commercial outcomes. So from my experience, and these are really just personal reflections on what are the barriers and issues around that, aside from this sort of lack of a commercial ecosystem. Well, certainly in international collaborations, distance is a real issue, and it's something we really should be aware of. Having come back from overseas, 20 years overseas, this is at Kooyong from the old Grand Slam days. So, 16,000 kilometres to all the other Grand Slams. We're 16,000 kilometres away from everywhere, basically. So, distance is a big issue for us. It's not, it's expensive to have meetings overseas. The time span that you have to actually discuss complex issues, with global partners is very limited each day. So these are significant barriers. So you need to really do what you can't solve that easily, but I'd like to call out the Evoke Ag conference, which we just went to. John will come along, he'll appreciate this. It was really, things like that which make it easy for global partners to come to Australia and increase the efficiency are really, really helpful. I mean, dollars are of course an issue. We don't have the money that they have overseas. I think it's not so critical in a way. I mean, if it's well spent and well targeted, and the upside of the RDC system is there is consistent funding coming through, relatively consistent, to other nations. So that's not the greatest issue. But probably the biggest issue for me, and this is from a lot of negotiations and discussion with academic institutions, is the whole area of collaboration and commercialisation skills. The system is very much set up around academic excellence, which is very, very good, but there's a real lack of appetite to actually convert that into commercial outcomes, seeing that developed. And so, there needs to be a lot of discussion about how academic institutions are incentivised around their activities. So a few discussion points or ideas from our point of view. So first of all, I think it's nevertheless still very important to maintain, boost R&D spending and increase efficiency. I mean, there's no substitute for excellence in academic research. There's no doubt about that. I mean, that is the starting point for any company to come here, that it really is world-leading research in different areas. So you don't get that by cutting funding, that's for sure. I mean, RD&E must become RD-C&E, which means, of course, commercialisation. There really needs to be thought fairly early on. I mean, of course, there always is space for fundamental research that's unrelated to commercialisation, but there has to be, for a lot of it, there has to be really careful thought given into how you might commercialise, looking for partners from an early stage. I think there needs to be a consistent message around international collaborations that they are welcome. Very often, big multinationals, should we do it or should we not, or should we really focus on Australia only? I think that's not correct thinking. You really need to find the best partners that can actually get you to scale as quickly as possible, whoever that may be. We need science-based and efficient and clear regulations. Confusion between states and so on doesn't make it any more attractive for companies to invest. And consider the commercial strategies that are possible. I mean, really, basically, the most basic strategies are you either buy something or you build it from scratch. We do the harvester thing once again, or we partner. And my message, I suppose, one of my key messages is that the opportunities for partnering are much greater than they ever have been. And there was this influential paper about open source innovation released in 2006, and it's influenced our company and a number of other companies. And that was prior to, well, I wouldn't say it's all related to this, but as things were like before the 2000s, companies very much innovated from their own innovations, and they put them through a funnel and they chose the most attractive ones. Well, with the way science has gone, of course, ideas are coming from a much, much wider space. Different areas of science are feeding into companies' innovations, processes. So the funnel is becoming bigger. We're interested in talking to more different types of people and companies. And the other aspect is that there's a lot of different ways of doing business now. I mean, there's out-licensing, there's in-licensing, there's partnerships, there's PPPs. So there's many, many points at which you can collaborate with companies like ourselves and the other majors, I would say, as well. So just wrapping up now, just some examples from Bayer's point of view. So we have sort of 3 platforms of collaboration, external collaboration. First are strategic partnerships, and we call that GRDC, which is a very important global partnership for us. We have a partnership with Max Planck Institute in Germany over new chemical or new mode of action discoveries. Embrapa, of course, from Brazil. CSIRO could easily be here as well, and many other sort of strategic partnerships we're doing around the world. We have open innovation activities. WeSolve is actually from within the company, trying to get ideas from just anybody within the company, but also external small grants. And then we've dipped our toe, or more than dipped our toe, in this venture capital area as well. We have investments in various venture capital funds, trying to really get harebrained ideas from anywhere, but also getting the contacts that are related to that as well. And so I'll just throw one slide up here, and this is really just a few local innovations, and just again to emphasise the sort of partnership approach. I mean, Bolgard, top right there, recently launched here in Australia, the first country in the world, was launched in Australia, very much a collaboration with CSIRO and industry partners. Aviator's a new fungicide, but the crop alert aspect is a disease prediction model developed in collaboration with the Department of Ag West Australia. The Beltamavento, new sort of targeted insecticides, working closely with beneficial insect companies, to put that out there. And then finally, Serenade, a couple of different versions. This is a biological fungicide and soil health additive, again working very closely with Australian farmers actually to develop that sort of complex technology. So, collaboration is the name of the game these days, and we're up for it. So, so that's basically it. In conclusion, I'd say, there's a global innovation market out there. It's somewhat one part daunting, but also there's lots of opportunities. We just have to develop the skills to reference and collaborate with that. Thank you very much.